When words grow weary and rest, when thoughts come to a halt, when logic and emotion both fall silent, a new language is born within, the language of silence. And in that silence, God resides. From the moment we are born, we are surrounded by noise. The outer world is full of sounds, the roar of traffic, endless conversations, the echo of thoughts. Even inside, we're filled with noise, memories, desires, fears, hopes, all swirling endlessly. We spend our entire lives entangled in this chaos. We assume God will be found in this noise, in mantras, bhajans, discourses. But one day, when we're exhausted, when the search leaves us broken, a quiet realization dawns. God is not outside. He lives within, in the same silence that resides in every soul, deep, calm, eternal. Silence is not emptiness. It's not a void. It is a universe unto itself, alive, awakened, and resting all at once. It is the sacred space where the soul meets God, without a single word. It's the point where language ends and true experience begins. Have you ever noticed? When the sun sets and the sky turns golden, when birds return to their nests, a strange peace envelops everything. There's nothing more to say. Only silence remains. But that silence is not lifeless. It is alive. It speaks. It sings. A sound only the heart can hear. God's silence is just like that. It cannot be heard with ears. It must be felt by the soul. It calms your inner storms. It reconnects you to your truest self. It reminds you that you are not just a body or a name. You are light, a divine melody, a spark of that eternal silence from which the entire universe was born. Words bring knowledge, but silence brings experience. Words create religion, but silence inspires devotion. Words can teach, but silence leads to self-realization. God's silence is an invitation to go inward, to listen deeply, to surrender completely. When you descend into silence, you hear the oldest music, the sound of Om, the sound the sages heard, the Buddha felt, the mystic Kabir discovered within himself. That's why the saints and yogis become silent when they meditate. Because to hear God, your outer ears are not enough. You must listen with your heart. You must see with your soul. Silence is the gateway where the soul meets the divine. But in today's world, silence is a forgotten treasure. People fear it. They mistake silence for loneliness, emptiness. But the truth is, silence is the place where we are most whole, where we shed all identities, all masks, all need for validation. In that silence, we simply exist, and that very existence is God's presence. Ask yourself, when you're alone, with no one watching, no one speaking, what remains? What remains is your purest self, your silence, your being, your soul. And in that sacred silence, God holds your hand. He says nothing, but his silence says everything. He whispers without words, "You are love, you are light, you are infinite." But to understand this, you must first become silent. You must journey inward. You must sink into peace. God doesn't speak any language. He is silence. He is stillness. He is the wave of presence. And when you merge with this silence, your life transforms. Your words begin to carry silence. Your eyes reflect silence. Even your touch begins to hold the compassion of silence. Though you live in the world, you become a symbol of that infinite stillness. That's why the greatest sages could sit in silence, and their disciples would receive answers. Because in their presence, silence was the teacher, the guide, the path. If you truly want to meet God, leave the noise behind. Embrace silence. Sit with yourself each day. No thoughts, no words. Just sit, just be. That silence is your doorway. That silence is your temple. That silence is your God. Silence isn't a practice. It's a surrender. It's a dissolving of all boundaries, merging into the vastness of the divine. When someone says, "I am silence," they mean, "I am nothing now. I am only God." Silence isn't seen, it's felt. It vibrates inside. It draws you inward, where no sound exists, yet everything can be heard. You might wonder, how can silence have a voice? But as you observe more deeply, the mystery begins to unfold. You begin to realize silence is the true sound of life. It was there before birth. It remains after death. It lives in each breath, behind every thought. Have you ever listened to your breath? Every inhale carries sound, and then silence. Every thought rises, then disappears into silence. Every emotion swells, and then falls back into silence. Silence is not absence. It is the pure form of Brahman, the sacred void, where everything exists, yet nothing is bound. It's the ocean where words are waves, and silence is the depth. That's why the wise always said, true experience does not come from scripture or sermons. It comes from the silent journey of the soul. When you sit in silence, you come closest to God. There is no ritual, no chant, just presence, and that presence is the purest devotion. God doesn't want your words. He simply wants you, present, still, surrendered. We've imprisoned God in words, in religion, in rituals, in rules. But God is simple. He just wants you to stop and feel Him. Have you seen a child sleeping in its mother's arms? No conversation, no effort, just perfect peace. God's silence is like that. He holds you, and all your fears, questions, and sorrows melt away. Imagine a life filled with that kind of silence. Then every breath becomes worship. Every step becomes meditation. Every glance becomes compassion. Because then you are living God's silence. Every moment, every breath. And it begins with a simple decision. From today, gift yourself a few moments of silence. No plans, no worries, no goals, just silence. Like sitting beside a still lake, like a tree reaching for the sky, like a lamp flickering quietly in the night. At first, it may be hard. The mind will wander, the body will fidget, thoughts will scream. But slowly, silence becomes your companion. It enters you, touches your soul, and one day you realize words are no longer needed. Your silence becomes your prayer. Your silence becomes your temple.
When the words
that
end,
moment,
don't
that
be afraid.
awakening is the greatest
God's
truth of
welcome.
life.
He is about to speak through your silence. In silence, you begin to see clearly. All that you believed to be life was just noise, culture, education, tradition, desire, fear, even your idea of yourself, all noise. To enter silence is to see beyond all that, to touch what's real. God's voice isn't words, it's a melody. A vibration felt only when the mind becomes quiet. That same vibration was heard by sages in Om. It flows in every heartbeat, every breath. In silence, your thoughts begin to fall, like autumn leaves returning to the earth. You don't need to fight them. Just remain silent. Silence will take care of the rest. Silence reveals the subtlest truths. You begin to feel what words can never describe. A current of love flows within you, without reason, without attachment. You love without liking or disliking. Everything becomes a reflection of God. Your confusion dissolves. Divine life begins. You no longer strive. You simply exist. Free of effort, free of expectation. That's why the great saints speak less, or not at all, because they've seen the truth and words are no longer needed. Words are only signposts, but when you arrive, the signs fall away. Silence remains, and that silence touches thousands. It becomes a sermon, a blessing, a divine presence. Many wonder, can we live in society and remain silent? Yes, not only can you, but you will become the most peaceful, compassionate presence around. You no longer spread noise. You radiate energy, a calmness that touches others deeply. Your eyes will speak. Your silence will say everything. Silence isn't escape. It's power. It's not turning away. It's seeing clearly. It's an inner revolution. And then you'll see your relationships transform. You speak less, but are understood more. You love more deeply, not through words, but through presence. You begin to feel God everywhere. In a child's laughter, an elder's silence, the breeze, the trees, the rain, the night sky. God is in everything, but to see Him, there must be peace within. Silence is the purest prayer, because in silence you ask for nothing. You only surrender, and where prayer ends, grace begins. So give your soul this gift, a few minutes of stillness every day. Close your eyes, let go, just feel. Listen to that voice within, whispering, I am here, I am God, I am your silence. And when you finally touch that deepest layer of silence, it becomes your nature. You don't choose silence, you become it. In that silence, you feel a light within you, a light that's beyond the sun, beyond fire, a light that can neither be lit nor extinguished, a light that has always existed and always will. That is the light of your soul. That is God. And notice, when you're truly silent, your body calms, your breath deepens, your heart beats evenly, your thoughts fade, your mind becomes a mirror, and in that mirror you glimpse God. You don't need a temple to find Him. His temple is within you, and your silence is the priest. Faith born from silence is the purest of all. It doesn't come from fear or greed. It comes from joy, from bliss, from inner experience. And in that silence, a voice rises within. O Lord, I seek nothing, not heaven, not fame, not success. I only seek you. I seek your silence. And when that happens, life begins to change. Your words become fewer, but more powerful. Your actions become simpler, but more impactful. You become ordinary on the outside, but extraordinary within. Because now you live with God's silence. No longer shaken by the world, your center lies within. And from that center, no sorrow, no failure, no success can disturb you. This is the strength of silence. It makes you unshakable, yet humble. You may think it's hard, but it's the most natural state. Only our habits make it seem difficult. We're used to thinking, reacting, speaking. But if you sit in silence daily, that silence will become your path. Silence is not limited to meditation. It is everywhere. When you look at someone with love, that is silence. When you forgive, that is silence. When you embrace without words, that is silence. When you pray without speaking, that is silence. And that silence is God. When you live in silence, you are no longer just a person. You become a ray of peace, a moving prayer, a silent blessing to the world. So from today, walk in silence, see in silence, love in silence, meet God in silence. Because when the words end, that is where God begins.